Today's first reading recalls when the 12 tribes came together at Hebron to recognize David as their king and to pledge their allegiance to him. Much later, the Jews of Jesus' time were under a new leader, King Herod, and the Roman Empire. And with this new king, they were in a hopeless, miserable state. And so they would look to that past glory, a time when they had the great King David as their shepherd king. He had his faults, but they were one with him. Despite his all too human weaknesses, God had used David to unite the 12 tribes into one powerful kingdom. Under Herod and the Roman occupation, the suffering people not only looked back at those moments of past glory, but they also looked ahead to the messianic, David-like ruler that would come to deliver them. They had hoped that God would do once again as God had done in the past, deliver them from their oppressors. Where was this long-awaited king? How would they recognize him when he did come? Well, he certainly was disguised in the most unexpected and even repulsive way. He was hanging on a cross. And to further humiliate and mock the people, Pilate had placed on Jesus' cross the inscription, "There's the King of the Jews." How did this king get to such a crushing place? Since last June, when Luke told us that Jesus firmly resolved to proceed to Jerusalem, we have been traveling with him and his disciples to the holy city, and along the way, Luke periodically reminded us that they are on the road to Jerusalem. And as Jesus travels with his disciples, he performed miracles, teaches them about prayer and the cost of discipleship, sends them on a mission, meets resistance from the religious leaders, predicts his own passion, gives warning about the coming crisis, and encourages them to have faith and to persevere until the Son of Man comes. Still, when they do get to Jerusalem, and what he has predicted comes true, and he is captured and crucified, they are completely shocked. They are crushed by disappointment, and they scatter. In Luke's version of the execution, those who are there at the end are onlookers, jeering soldiers, sneering religious leaders, and at a distance, his friends and the women who accompanied him from Galilee. And there are 2 crucified criminals hanging on each side of him. That's a lonely throne and a powerless crown for this King of the Jews. All throughout history, right up to the present, all political leaders exert power over their subjects. It is a top-down power. And when we call Jesus our King, some people believe that that's the kind of power he can exert anytime he chooses. But today, on the cross, where is that power? Why doesn't he exercise it and get off the cross and smash his enemies and declare an arrival of the kingdom? Instead, if we want to see our King, we have to turn our gaze over to this horrible spectacle and see him pinned to a crossbeam. What the heck is going on here? Well, Jesus, the King, is showing us another kind of power from the cross. His power is not exerted by force, but it is by inviting us to become one with him. He is offering himself to us in a relationship that is strong even when it appears weak. In that relationship, we share in his power, a power to heal and forgive, a power to be his servants in his ministry of reconciliation. In our relationship with Jesus, we become strong, not by assuming power and ruling it over people, but by sharing his life in our relationship with others. In accepting the cross, Jesus entered into solidarity with the lowest rungs of society. Who could be lower than a convicted criminal hanging on a cross? The crucified Jesus is a sign that he is offering himself to everyone, especially those who are considered the lowest, not by forcing himself on us, but by giving himself to us in weakness and in apparent defeat. While earthly rulers exert themselves on us by asserting their power to achieve their own purposes, Jesus' power is shown in his service to us and his willingness to lay down his life for us. And we are free to accept or reject that rule. He will not force us. He doesn't want us to be subservient servants as much as he wants us to be his friends. Indeed, we who have accepted his reign now live as brothers and sisters in his kingdom. The world challenges us daily to choose the rule of earthly powers and principalities, greed, violence, indifference, cruelty, and aggression. And as a result, accepting Jesus' rule is not a once and for all act, but it needs to be renewed every single day by the deliberate choices that we make. Being members in the reign of God under Jesus' kingship can be very discouraging at times. So much of his reign is incomplete and fragmentary in this world. A quick glance at the headlines always confirms that. There's more to be done to make Jesus' peaceable kingdom a reality in this life, not only in our surrounding world, but also within our Christian community and within each of us. And so we live in hope, and we return here every single week to receive the nourishment that we need, the Word of God and the food of Jesus' body and blood, to live in the reign of God, not as loyal servants, but as brothers and sisters of our King Jesus.